You know, your body has this incredible built-in emergency broadcast system. It sends out these critical red alerts when something is going seriously wrong. Today, we're going to decode 3 of the most urgent signals your body can send: asthma, anaphylaxis, and diabetes.
And paying attention to these signals, it really matters. Just to put it in perspective, here in Ireland, 1 person dies every single week from asthma. And here's the kicker: a staggering 90% of those deaths are considered preventable. That's why knowing these signs isn't just a good idea, it can be a lifesaver.
Look, these conditions are way more common than you might realize. We're talking about stuff that affects hundreds of thousands of people, your friends, your family, your coworkers. So let me ask you straight up, if you saw someone in real distress, would you know how to spot those red flags?
All right, so let's tackle our first red alert, that sudden, absolutely terrifying fight for air that is an asthma attack. So, what is asthma really? At its heart, it's all about obstruction. It's a condition where the tubes that carry air into your lungs get inflamed and become super sensitive, meaning they can suddenly clamp shut. I want you to actually imagine this for a second. Picture trying to take a deep breath, but only through one of those tiny, thin coffee stirrers. That's what people describe an asthma attack as feeling like. The world just shrinks down to that one desperate struggle for the next breath. It's a feeling of total helplessness.
And an attack isn't just one thing going wrong. It's more like a perfect storm inside your lungs. It's a triple threat. First, your body goes into overdrive, producing sticky mucus that clogs everything up. At the same time, the actual walls of your airways start to swell. And then, to make matters even worse, the muscles wrapped around those airways start to spasm, squeezing them shut.
Think about a healthy airway like a clear, open highway, right? Air is just flowing smoothly, no problem. Now, imagine that same highway suddenly has a multi-car pileup, the walls are crumbling inwards, and roadblocks have been thrown up everywhere. That's an asthma attack.
Okay, let's take a closer look. On the left, in Figure B, that's your open highway, a normal, healthy airway. It's wide, it's clear. But then look at Figure C. Wow, that is the triple threat in action. You can see how the walls are all red and swollen, you see the muscles around the outside squeezing tight, and that yellow gunk inside? That's all the extra mucus, basically plugging up the tiny space that's left.
So what sets all this off? Well, the crazy thing is, the triggers can be almost anything. You've got the usual suspects like pollen, dusts, and pet dander, but it can also be something as simple as a blast of cold air, a bit of exercise, or even just catching a cold. The most important thing to remember is that everyone's triggers are different.
And this is why spotting an attack is so critical, because a situation can go from someone just feeling a little tight in the chest to a full-blown emergency in just a matter of minutes. You have to be watching for the signs.
So here's a really simple, practical way to gauge how serious it is. Just listen to how much the person can speak. If they can still get out full sentences between breaths, it's probably a mild attack. But if they're struggling so hard for air that they can only gasp out one single word at a time, you are now in a severe emergency situation.
And then you get to the truly life-threatening signs. If someone becomes confused or exhausted, it means their brain isn't getting enough oxygen. A bluish tint around the lips or skin, that's a huge red flag. But honestly, the most dangerous, most terrifying sign of all? A silent chest. You'd think, oh, the wheezing stopped, that's good. No. It is the opposite of good. It means so little air is moving in or out that it can't even make a sound. That is a dire emergency.
Okay, so we've talked about a crisis happening right in the lungs. Now, let's zoom out to a full-body red alert. We're moving on to anaphylaxis, which isn't just an allergic reaction, it's a full-on allergic cascade.
Now, there are 2 words you absolutely have to remember with anaphylaxis: severe and fast. This is not your seasonal hay fever. This is a massive, systemic reaction that can completely overwhelm the body almost instantly after coming into contact with a trigger.
Basically, your body's internal security system completely misreads the situation. It sees something harmless, like a peanut or a bee sting, and thinks it's a massive, life-threatening invasion. So it panics and pushes the big red button, unleashing a flood of chemicals that causes total chaos everywhere.
And unlike asthma, which is focused on the lungs, anaphylaxis is a war on multiple fronts. The skin might explode in hives and swelling. The airway can swell shut, just like an asthma. But, and this is the real game changer, the entire circulatory system takes a massive hit. Blood pressure can plummet, leading to dizziness, collapse, and life-threatening shock.
It affects everything, all at once.
All right, so we've covered a crisis of air with asthma and a body-wide immune crisis with anaphylaxis. Our final red alert is something different. It's a crisis of energy itself. Let's take a look at diabetes.
So let's think of it this way. Every single cell in your body runs on fuel, and that fuel is sugar, or glucose. But the glucose can't just get into the cells by itself. It needs a special key to unlock the door. That key is a hormone called insulin. In diabetes, that whole key system is broken. In type 1, your body just stops making the keys. In type 2, the locks on the cell doors get kind of rusty and the keys don't work properly. Either way, the end result is the same. The doors stay locked. The sugar gets trapped out in the bloodstream, which means your cells are starving for energy while your blood sugar levels skyrocket to dangerous levels.
So what happens when this system breaks down? Well, it can lead to two totally opposite but equally dangerous emergencies. Hypoglycemia, which is when blood sugar crashes too low, and hyperglycemia, which is when it spikes too high.
Now, what's fascinating here is how the signs for these two emergencies are often perfect mirror opposites. A low sugar event, a hypo, happens fast. The skin gets pale, cold, and clammy. A high sugar event, a hyper, comes on much more slowly, and the skin will be warm and dry. And see that fruity smell for high sugar? That's a huge clue. It's the smell of something called ketones, which the body produces when it's so starved for sugar that it starts burning fat for fuel instead. It's a major sign the system is in crisis. So what's the big takeaway here? The crucial point is that by just looking and observing these very specific signs, you can get a really good idea of whether someone is having a hypo or a hyper emergency, and that is absolutely vital information to have. So whether it's the lungs desperately fighting for air in an asthma attack, the immune system launching a mistaken all-out war in anaphylaxis, or the body's entire energy system failing in a diabetic emergency, all of these conditions are sending out loud, clear, and yes, sometimes frightening distress signals. They are red alerts we simply cannot afford to ignore. So there you have it. We've decoded the signals. We've talked about what they look like, what they feel like, and what they mean. Recognizing them is the first, most critical step. But the real question now is, what are you going to do with this information? What's your next step?